Okay, I can confirm you're live whenever you're ready, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Tribunal, July 13th, 2021. I want to just make a few notes. So first of all, this is the meeting of the Licensing Tribunal being held to hear and consider submissions to determine whether or not to revoke a lodging house license to Ann Hamilton, otherwise known as Ann Tamber, operating at 249 Duke Street East, Kitchener, Ontario, pursuant to Chapter 533 of the City of Kitchener Municipal Code. Chair, so myself, I just want to introduce the tribunal. So it includes myself, Councillor Joe, and Councillor Gazzola. We also are being supported by city staff, including Diana Saunderson, our committee administrator, Helen Flactu, Manager of Licensing, and Aaron Mock, Associate City Solicitor to the city. Just a few words about process. So the hearing is a formal process where those giving evidence will be sworn or affirmed before they do so. City staff will be asked to present their submission, call witnesses, and offer evidence first. Once they have finished, the licensee or their counsel or agent may cross-examine those witnesses. Licensee will then be given an opportunity to present its submission, call witnesses, and offer evidence, following which city staff may cross-examine the witnesses. Both sides will be asked to provide summations, after which the committee members will adjourn to discuss the submissions and will either reserve its decision or render a decision orally. The Licensing Tribunal, under the authority of the Municipal Act, has the following options to recommend to council with respect to the lodging house license. So the applicant may be granted the license, or granting the license with conditions, or suspending the license, or denying the license. And upon conclusion of the hearing, the tribunal shall, as soon as practicable, make a written report to City Council summarizing the evidence and arguments presented, the findings of the facts made by the tribunal, and the recommendations, if any, with reasons to be considered by City Council. Please be advised that the hearing shall be open to the public, except where the tribunal is of the opinion that matters involving public security may be disclosed, or intimate financial or personal matters or others. Other matters may be disclosed at the hearings of such a nature, having regard to the circumstances that the desirability of avoiding disclosure thereof in the interest of any person affected or in the public interest outweighs the desirability of adhering to the principle that hearings be open to the public. We have, before we begin, I want to start off by saying that we are in receipt of an informal letter from the representative of the applicant. Madam Clerk, what would be the best procedure at this point?
If you have any questions related to the letter itself, you're more than welcome to seek legal advice from your attorney who is currently present. It's up to you what you wish to do. So the appellant has brought forward the letter potentially related to impartiality. So it's up to the committee how you'd like to decide. Do you want to seek legal advice at this moment?
Yes, I think we should. But I wonder if we should give a moment to the applicant to state that for the record.
If you wish to do so, that would be no problem.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Ellis.
Yes, we sent the letter based on comments that you had made at the previous hearing where you stated that witnesses were emailing you personally regarding the hearing documents and the process of the hearing. And we felt that that was a conflict, as in if you're speaking to witnesses personally about issues, it kind of takes away the impartiality of your decisions. That's that was the purpose of the letter.
Mhm. All right, and so thank you. We're going to have a brief recess to receive legal advice, and then we will return. So for those attending this hearing, we're going to have a recess of at least 20 minutes. Madam Clerk, what would be the best way to make sure people, stay tuned?
No problem. What's going to happen is that I will put all of the meeting attendees on hold. So it will give the opportunity for you to deliberate. And then once the meeting resumes, I will move everybody back into the meeting. So what's currently going to happen for anybody who's in attendance, your meeting will indicate that you have been put on hold. And when the meeting resumes, we will move you back into the meeting room so you can then again watch or participate as required. So just give me 1 second. I do have administrative staff in here to support me. So it hopefully will move people into hold sooner. So Connie, if you wouldn't mind. And confirm your live stream. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. And first off, I want to start by thanking you again for your patience with us as we needed to meet to discuss things and then come back. So thank you so much for your patience. The committee has heard the submissions of Mr. Ellis and has considered the claim that I may have an actual or perceived bias against the appellant. I am aware of my duty to act impartially and to judge this case based on the facts and matters presented before the committee. To be clear, I absolutely have no pecuniary interest in this matter, and I do not believe that any correspondence to my public, not private, but public, very accessible email constitutes a personal interest in this case. I get contacted by email all the time and by everybody who wants to contact me. It's very easy to find my email address, and so that being said, I am conscious that impartiality is not only actual impartiality but also perceived impartiality. Therefore, in the interest of maintaining the integrity of this hearing and ensuring the expedient resolution of this matter, it is with full confidence in my fellow committee members that I recuse myself from this matter. Pursuant to Section 4.4 of the Statutory Powers Procedure Act, as I am unable to complete this hearing, myself, this matter will proceed as scheduled with the remaining committee members.
Thank you, Sarah. We are now left with two members on the committee, myself and Councillor Michaud, and I would, at this point in the proceedings, nominate Councillor Christine Michaud to take over the role as chair of the tribunal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gazzola and Councillor Marsh. I accept the position as chair. Before we move forward with the city's witnesses, we're already approaching the lunch hour, so I wonder if we shouldn't determine a lunch break before we get started. Would 1 p.m. work for everyone?
It works for me.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Then we'll have the city to call your first witness.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Erin Mock, and I'm an associate city solicitor for the city of Kitchener. This committee or tribunal was called according to chapter 553 of the municipal code to hear facts and evidence about the recommendation of the manager of licensing to revoke a lodging house license at 249 Duke Street East. The owner of the lodging house, Ann Hamilton, or Ann Tamber, was advised on February 22nd, 2021 by the manager of licensing services that steps were being taken to revoke her license because many issues were not addressed by Ms. Hamilton. We ask that the committee consider the evidence, the documentation that has been provided to you through the share file, and the oral testimonies that you will hear from some witnesses. There are several city staff witnesses and several civilian witnesses of the community surrounding 249 Duke Street East. First, though, I would like to just go through some of the hearing materials that have been provided to you, beginning with tab A, and nothing will be put up on the screen at the moment. This is just to orient ourselves to the materials that have been provided to you. So under tab A, there's hearing materials. 1B are the rules. And again, rule 7.5 does provide that these documents that were filed with the committee before today's date shall be marked as exhibits. Item 2 is a parcel register. This is something that is on title. It shows ownership. So title to Miss Ann Hamilton, also known as Miss Ann Tamber, was transferred on December 22nd, 2015. The transfer document is also shown under tab A4. Then moving to number 3, there is an assessment roll. So this is tab A3. There's an assessment roll. This shows that Ann Hamilton pays property taxes for the property at 249 Duke Street East. And it also shows the connection between the legal description of the property and the municipal address. Item 5 under tab A is a clerk's statement pursuant to the Municipal Act, showing that Miss Hamilton or Miss Tamber had a business license for a lodging house since 2019. Previously, as shown in this clerk statement, it was also licensed by the previous owner since 2003 to 2015, when Ann bought the lodging house. The rest will be discussed through oral evidence, but just so you know, tab B contains licensing evidence. Tab C contains bylaw enforcement evidence. Tab D, the fire department evidence. Tab E, information from the police. Tab F, email correspondence with the Humane Society. Tab G, complaint information. Within that, there are folders containing 2019, 2020, and 2021. In addition, there were some other information that was provided, and that's in the last folder, uploaded on July 9th. So the city would like to begin by calling our first witness. We call a first witness who is a civilian. Her name is Amanda Reed. We will begin in open session. If I could please have her available. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, Amanda. If you wouldn't mind being affirmed, do you mind raising your right hand? Do you swear affirm the information you're going to provide today is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you.
Hello, Ms. Reed. Thank you for attending today. Before we start, I just want to remind you to refrain from disclosing intimate details or personal information about tenants. We'll have a chance at the end of your testimony to also show some videos that you provided. Okay. How long have you lived in the area of this property?
I bought my house in 2017. Sorry, 2014.
Okay, thank you. Can you please tell the committee some of the things that you observed? You may go through your will say statement.
Certainly. There is constant activity around the area, constant coming and goings of people from the area, vehicles at all hours of the night, generally after it gets dark, but more recently all through the day. There have been individuals coming and going from 249 Duke Street and meeting with people on the corners of Cameron and Duke for not more than 5 or 10 minutes, coming together, meeting, exchanging something in their hands, and then the person leaves, and then the other person goes back to 249 Duke Street. On January 6th, there was a very large argument out front of 249 Duke Street, and a woman ended up on my porch screaming and yelling. I opened the door. She asked me to call her a cab. I said I would, but I asked her to leave my porch. I guess a window had been broken at 249, and she and a man were yelling across Cameron Street at each other. Most recently on June 3rd, the coroner and police and EMS were at the residence. That's as much as I know about what happened on June 3rd. But there is constant EMS, police, constant activity there. On February 18th, a SWAT team descended on the neighborhood at about 2:30 during the day at PM. So SWAT team and several WRPS vehicles blocking Cameron and Duke to execute a warrant on 249 Duke Street. That's as much as I know about that, but I could hear them say when they banged on the door that they were executing a warrant.
Have you had any personal property damage?
Yes, people coming and going from 249 Duke Street have broken into my car. I don't keep very much in my car, and I forgot to lock it that night, but my permit for my vehicle and my insurance slip was stolen. Adapters, that sort of thing was stolen out of my car.
How do you know that they were individuals from that property?
Because I have cameras, and I got cameras and installed them on my porch and at the side of my house very shortly after I moved in, and noticed all of the behavior that was occurring in the neighborhood.
Okay. How has living next to this lodging house affected you?
Well, I don't spend very much time in the front of my house. I don't, my son is older than the other children that are in the neighborhood. So I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but I don't want him anywhere near that residence for the reason of the drugs. There's quite a lot of drug activity as far as I can see that goes on. So he actually lives with his dad now, 2 hours away.
I'm sorry to hear about that. So you personally don't feel safe, is what you're saying?
I do not.
Okay.
And my property is not safe, and that is the reason that I got the cameras, so that if a window was broken or something more significant than my car being broken into and my slips being stolen happened, then I would have evidence for insurance and the police.
Okay. You mentioned that you moved in 2014 and has stated that Ann Hamilton or Ann Tamber has owned the property since 2015. Did you notice any change in that 1 year with regards to the property?
Yes, absolutely. I didn't really notice anything happening there until about mid 2015. I think I got the cameras in 2016.
And have you seen Miss Ann Hamilton present at the property?
I, to the best of my knowledge, she drives a red pickup. And I have seen her there maybe once or twice. Very rarely. No, I would say that she is an absent landlord, would be my opinion.
Have you ever had the opportunity to speak to the property owner about these issues that you were having?
Yes, I emailed her in, I don't have the date, probably 2016 or 2017, and brought the issues to her attention. And that there were a lot of issues going on, and that I personally did not feel safe in the neighborhood, and quite frankly advised her that it was her responsibility as a landlord to manage her property. And that was I emailed her.
And just out of curiosity, if she hadn't really been around, how were you sort of able to obtain her email address?
Another neighbor provided it to me.
Okay. So there wasn't really a lot of opportunity for you to sort of just speak to her haphazardly if she had appeared, just to call her over and say hello, and then explain the issues. That there wasn't really an opportunity for that.
No, every time I saw the vehicle at the residence, it would be while I was just either walking past on my way to somewhere. And quite frankly, I don't know what she looks like.
Okay. So you've also had some other videos that you've provided to the committee. Since they contain some personal details of tenants or some intimate details about other people, I ask that the committee now go into closed session so that I may continue my questions of Ms. Reed.
You'll just have to
Okay.
Sorry, I just need to confirm with Trevor that we were able to start the live stream successfully. So I just wanted to confirm.
Okay, thanks.
Apologies, after a restart, it just takes a few seconds. I believe that we are live. So I'm just confirming from communications while we are doing that. So just 2 seconds. I have confirmed that we are live. Christine, Councillor Michaud, you're ready to go.
Okay, so are we calling the next witness from the city? If you're finished
Yes.
with Amanda Reed,
Yes.
thank you. Thanks.
Yes, we are. I would like to thank Amanda Reed for her testimony today, and she may be excused if she needs to go back to work. The next city witness is a city staff person. Her name is Julie Callflesh. And I ask that she be sworn in.
Julie, if you're able to turn on your camera. Hi. Do you mind raising your right hand? Do you swear from the information you're going to provide is true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's your employer?
The City of Kitchener,
What's your position?
Business Licensing Inspector.
How long have you held that position?
15 years.
Can you briefly describe your job duties?
I proactively and reactively perform inspections, investigation, and enforcement duties related to business licensing.
Okay. In general, what is needed to apply for a lodging house license?
So an applicant requires to submit to licensing services a completed application along with the fee.
How much is the fee?
$892 is the renewal fee.
Okay. How much is the initial fee?
Initial fee is $1,099.
Okay. And what do you do when you receive an application?
So we review it for completeness, and then we input it into the Amanda system. And then with that, there are required inspections as part of the process that the applicant needs to obtain. And those include planning, property standards, and fire.
Okay. And you mentioned that you do inspections.
Yes, I do.
Did you do an inspection of this property?
Yes, I did.
Can you state the address of the property?
249 Duke Street East.
Okay. And why did you go out to that property?
I was directed by my manager, Helen Phylactu, to attend that property for the purpose of determining the use of the property.
Okay. And you took some handwritten notes at that time that you went out?
Yes, I did.
For the committee's purposes, they're located at tab B, number 1. If you scroll right to the bottom, page 34 to 36. You're probably going to want to refer to some of your notes, is that correct?
That is correct.
They were made at the time of your inspection?
Yes, they were.
Okay. So when was the inspection?
It was August 22nd, 2019.
Who are you with?
I was with Officer Rick Potvin.
When you say officer, do you mean a police officer or a municipal officer?
A municipal officer.
What did you observe?
I observed, we inspected the property. I observed signage. I observed some tenants of the property.
Can you please tell the committee about your inspection, and perhaps with the committee's permission, she could perhaps use her notes or read a little bit from them.
Okay. So I attended that property, like I said, August 22nd, 2019 at 2 p.m. I saw a male and female standing on the porch. I identified myself verbally to the male. I was wearing my municipal licensing information shirt at the time. I heard Officer Potvin ask both the male and female if they reside at the premises, and both replied yes. I heard Potvin say we were there to do an inspection for the purpose to determine the use of the property. Another male approached from the front and stopped beside the porch. I heard Potvin identify himself to the male and said that we were there for the purpose of inspecting and determining the use of the property. He asked the male if he lives there, and the male said yes. The male said there were 3 bedrooms up, 3 down, 1 bedroom and kitchen down, 2 washrooms. A person made a phone call and gave the phone to Potvin and said, "Here's Ann." I heard Potvin say he was there to inspect for the use of the property. I heard Potvin ask Ann how many people live there, and Ann responded, 7 occupants total. I heard Potvin ask Ann about the number of rooms, and Ann responded 7. I heard Potvin ask how they pay rent, and I heard Ann respond normal ways, individually with cash. In a front window, I saw a paper posted with house rules. I entered the building, and in the front entrance, I saw posted on a wall, house rules for 249 Duke Street East. On the same wall, I saw a piece of paper with instructions to occupants in the event of fire. Occupants will, etc. On the same level, I saw several doors facing into 2 hallways. I saw that each door had a number on it. The numbers were 5, 6, 7. Each door had a key lock. I took photos, then Pop Van and I went downstairs. I saw one room with a number 8 on the door. I saw the door handle on this door. I saw a bathroom with a sink, toilet, and stand-up shower. I saw what appeared to be a kitchen with 2 sinks, cabinets, an oven with a kettle sitting on the stovetop. I saw 3 signs posted on a wall. The one sign said, "Kitchen, please clean up your dishes when you finish." The second sign said, "No use of the kitchen after 10 p.m. weekdays and 11 p.m. weekends." The third sign said, "Please clean up the kitchen after you've been cooking." Pop Van and I went upstairs. From a hallway, I saw several doors. Each door had a number on it and a key lock. I saw a bathroom that included a sink, toilet, stand-up shower. And those room numbers were 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pop Van and I returned to the main floor. I heard him speak with the male. I heard Pop Van identify himself to the male who was standing in the hallway, the same hallway as Pop Van and I were. I heard Pop Van asking his name, and the male responded with his name. I heard Pop Van ask him how he pays rent, and he replied individually. I saw that male open the door with the number 7 on it. I heard Pop Van ask how others pay, and he responded, "Ask the landlord." I heard Pop Van speaking to a female. I recognized her as she was the female standing on the porch when we first attended the property. I heard Pop Van ask her name, and she responded with her name. I heard Pop Van ask how she pays rent, and she responded individually to the landlord. I heard Pop Van ask her if the kitchen and bathrooms are used by everyone, and she responded, "Yes, everybody shares." I heard Pop Van ask about garbage removal and how it's done, and if it's done individually, and I heard her respond, "Yes, done individually." I heard Pop Van say, "You only have access to your room and no access to anyone else's room." And she said she has no access to anyone else's room. Another male entered the building. I heard Pop Van ask the male's name, and he responded with his name. He went into a room. I heard Pop Van ask a different male how long he's lived there, and I heard him respond, "Not very long." We left the premises at 2:25 p.m.
Thank you. After your inspection, were you satisfied that this was a lodging house?
Yes, I was,
How could you tell?
because I believed that there were 4 or more tenants, unrelated, using a dwelling unit and sharing common areas such as the kitchen and the bathrooms.
Okay. Did the owner have a license for a lodging house at the time of your inspection in 2019?
No,
Okay. And how many years before 2019 did she not have a lodging house license?
I believe between 2016 to 2019.
So since the property owner did not have a license at that time, did you follow up with the property owner about getting a license?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what transpired after that?
Well, there were many emails between February of 2017 to May 2020 to Ms. Ann Tamber regarding the lodging house license requirement. We did receive a lodging house license application on October 21st, 2019 by Ann Hamilton. And that license was issued on May 26th, 2020.
Just for the committee's awareness, this license is located at tab B. It's in the folder of conditions and it's item number 2. I'd ask that the committee administrator at this time just put up the license. So it's tab B within the folders of conditions, item number 2.
I apologize, Aaron. Tab B, item 2 is an email.
There's the business license is attached. It's okay if you don't. I do believe that the witness has knowledge of what the business license looks like. So Ms. Callflash, perhaps we'll just continue. There is a date on that business license about an expiry. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and what was the expiry date on that business license of May 26, 2020?
December 31st, 2020.
Okay, and that's a usual thing, right? However, was there any extension with regards to this business license?
There was an extension granted to June 30th,
And
2021.
that was for all businesses, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Have you received any renewal after June 30th, 2021?
We did receive a renewal license for that property and a fee associated to the renewal.
Okay, so the license has now been renewed and is in good standing.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned that you had some emails back and forth with Anne, and you've already testified that the business license was issued of May 2020. But when did you start emailing Anne about that license needing to be applied for?
That was back in February of 2017. I started the process to contact her and advise her of the lodging house license requirement.
Okay. And how about after your inspection? Was there a period of time once you completed that inspection that you stated that was on August 22nd, 2019? Did you try to communicate with Ms. Tamber about getting her application?
Yes, I don't remember the exact date, but we did communicate in between that period of August 2019 to May 2020.
And how come it took several months to get a license, or what was going on in between that time period?
Well, it fell off my radar, to be quite honest, for a little bit in between the communications. But like I said, she did come in to make application.
Okay, no further questions. Thanks.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes, I only have a few brief questions. Thank you for coming today. So when you informed Ms. Tamber that she required a lodging license, did she apply fairly quickly?
My answer to that would be no.
Okay. And how many months after you asked her to apply did she apply?
Well, it wasn't a matter of months. It was actually a matter of years, because this was back, I contacted the previous owner of that property, and he advised me that he sold it in December of 2016. So in 2017, I started to contact her regarding, he didn't have any contact details for her, because I did ask him, but he didn't have any contact details. So I did the process of reaching out to her to advise her of that lodging house license requirement.
Were you aware that Ms. Tamber was living in the unit after she purchased it?
Roommate.
No, I was not.
No. Does she require a lodging license if she's living in the unit?
If she's the property owner, no.
So is that a reasonable assumption as to why Ms. Tamber didn't get her lodging license, because she was living there until 2019?
Well, it's not only dependent on her living there, it's how many other unrelated people are also living there as well as her.
Okay, so could you explain that?
The lodging house definition, 4 or more unrelated people living in a dwelling unit and using common areas or sharing common areas such as the kitchen and the bathroom, could be a lounge area, but those sharing common areas, if they meet that requirement, that definition, they need to get a lodging house license.
Even if the owner is living in the unit?
Yes, if there's other unrelated people living there as well, then yes.
Okay, so it's 4 or more. So if she had 3 people living there and she was living there, then she'd be fine. But as soon as she has 4 people living there, then she has to have a lodging license, even though she's a resident of that unit.
If they are unrelated, yes.
Okay,
The definition includes that they're unrelated people.
okay.
She's a husband and wife are not related. Boyfriend, girlfriend, common or not.
Okay, those are all my questions.
Okay, it's now 1:45, and I'm wondering if we want to break for lunch now before we start with the next witness. Erin, what do you?
Through the chair, yes, I am agreeable to that.
Okay, and reasonable time for lunch if we come back at 1:30, is that good for everyone?
It is agreeable to me. Thank you.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes, it's agreeable to me.
Okay, so we're back here at 1:30 then. Thanks.
When I'm looking to the right, it's not that I'm not paying attention, but I have another computer that has all the details on it. So when I'm looking like that, I just wanted to let you know I'm not being disinterested or paying attention.
Councilor Gazzola, we'll go till 4 o'clock today, right? Correct?
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I think that's the time that we've given it, but okay. We'll do like a 15-minute break in between then?
Yes, that would be good. Yeah.
Okay.
I was to the understanding 4 o'clock as well. I have a 5 o'clock somewhere else.
Okay, so 4 is good?
Yes,
Okay, we'll work towards that then. That's awesome.
thank you.
Through you to the chair, I can confirm you are now live streamed, so you are ready to go.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're going to resume the hearing now. We will start carry on with city staff and the witnesses. I should just also note, we're going to take a 15-minute break, probably around 3, maybe 2:45 or 3, between 2:45, 3 o'clock, if we can fit one in there, a little bio break, and then we'll get back and we'll go till 4.
Thank you. The next city witness is Rick Potvin. Who's your employer?
The city of Kitchener.
What's your position?
I'm a municipal law enforcement officer.
How long
property
have you,
safety officer.
how long have you held that position?
I've held that position for approximately 14 years as a municipal law enforcement officer and past 4 years as a property standards officer.
Can you briefly describe your general duties?
So I follow up with bylaw complaints regarding property standards, maintenance, zoning, and other bylaw matters within a geographical area of the city. And on the outcome of those inspections, we'll follow up with communication with other owners of property to effect repairs or enforce the bylaw through written notices or orders.
So you mentioned this geographical area. Is the property in question a part of your area that you inspect?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you've been present at that location and you're familiar with it?
Yes, I am.
Can you please state the address?
249 Duke Street East, City of Kitchener.
Okay. Can you please provide a general description of the house?
The house is a two-story brick home. It's early 1900 construction, two-story. It's got a fire escape on the front face of the house that comes down from an upper floor down to the left side of the house. It's got a porch on the front of the house. It's a fenced-in yard in the rear yard, along some sides of it, like I said, with a driveway on the left-hand side and a grassed front yard. And again, it sits in a residential area amongst some other residential properties in the downtown area.
In the year 2019 or 2019, when was the first time that you attended 249 Duke Street East?
June 6, 2019.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so if I can refer to tab 4. The information, this information is a record of my report findings as a result of a complaint the office was following up on with regards to a trailer in the backyard at the property and another concern of maybe what fires, I think, in the backyard as well. So as a result of that, there was follow-up and inspection done on that day on June 6th, early in the morning. And there was some communication I had on my inspection on that day and some follow-up confirming that this trailer was on the property in violation of a bylaw, a zoning bylaw. And then there were subsequently other findings on that inspection day that resulted in other bylaw follow-ups with regards to some other matters other than just the recreational trailer. So on this day in tab 4, this trailer was on the property in the backyard. I spoke to someone at the property who said the trailer belonged to them. And the follow-up to that matter, some of that information was passed on to the licensing department for further follow-up. And I then followed up with this complaint through subsequent tabs that we would follow up with here after this specific tab. So there was follow-up required as a requirement as a result of that inspection and the findings.
Okay, so what other dates were you at the property referring to these other tabs?
So there's June 18th on tab 5. July 18th, tab 5, July 30th and tab 6, and July 18th for some of the other tabs, but in sequence with the tabs The next tab of tab 5 with regards to lot maintenance. My next inspection at that property was June 18th. And to follow up with matters there and other violation matters. There was no action taken, and on June 18th, there was a communication with the owner asking for callback, in which I did get a call back, informed the owner, Anne, and explained the waste to be removed, and she would follow up with the matter. On June 18th, a notice was sent out, which is the last, which is the document in the last portion of that tab, which identifies the specific waste to be removed from the property that was identified on the June 6th inspection, which identified wood furniture on the porch and at the side of the house, wooden chair, stair building doors, tree cuttings, and any other waste debris that would be there around, and to be maintained on an ongoing basis, as well as containers at the side of the house that were required to be used for storing waste as required in the bylaw to contain it. In that matter, was resolved July 18th, 2019, where I did an inspection and the waste material had been removed and the containers had lids and closed, secured on those containers. If I can move on to tab 6.
Yes, just one second, just for clarification for the committee. When the officer is referring to tabs, he's referring to tab C as like the folder C bylaw evidence. And when he says tab, he means the numbers that are there. So he's saying like 5, 6, 7. So he's just referring to them as tabs. Yes, just quickly though, on the point of the lot maintenance. So when you talk about lot maintenance, you mentioned the word waste.
Yes.
And can you just sort of tell us a bit more about the lot maintenance bylaw in general?
Yeah, so in general, the lot maintenance bylaw speaks to property being clear and free of waste material, and waste is defined in a variety of ways and defined in the bylaw in specific ways to name that, certain types of waste or waste cannot be on the property. There's a requirement for properties to be clean and clear of waste and in compliance with that bylaw.
And when you referred to the word notice, you said there was a notice in one of the tabs. What does the notice look like? Like, what is this notice?
So it's an official notice that's sent out from our office, and it's addressed to the owner of the property in Hamilton, and the notice is a written form of information provided that explains a variety of things. First and foremost, on this specific day, there was a violation of a specific bylaw and a requirement to comply with that bylaw by a deadline, and signed by an officer like myself, and then sent out to the owner and then followed up with.
How was it sent out to the owner?
It's sent out for information purposes to inform the owner, firstly, and then also as a practice, maybe a follow-up to a conversation between an owner and an officer like myself, and then a follow-up to that in written form to affirm that the requirements, what's required, and by a deadline for that requirement to be fulfilled. Yeah.
So is it mailed out to the owner, or is it personally delivered to the owner?
So it's mailed out to the owner.
How do you know the address? You don't have to state what her address is, but just how do you know what their addresses are, where the owner lives?
Yes, so we have a system known as Amanda that contains all property information and ownership within it that we use to generate this letter, this notice, a standard notice in its format. It's tailored thereafter, but it includes the owner property information, address onto the form. And we would also see that within the system itself to understand who owns the property and their address.
So at this time, and again, you don't have to state what the actual address is, but was the address to the owner 249 Duke Street East, which is this property that she owns?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
No, maybe you just didn't understand the question. What was the address in the letter for that notice that you said you sent out? Was it the home address of the owner, or was it the property address of this lodging house that she owns?
It was the property address to which the owner does not live at the property address to which the notice was written about, 249. So a different address. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and again, the committee members can see which address that is. It's referred to in the tabs. Let's go back to some of your other inspection dates. So you mentioned, I think, July 18th, and that was in tab 5. Why were you there on that date?
Sorry, tab 5, July 18th was the last date that I attended there. It was June 18th I attended there on tab 5, if we can clarify that.
So, but were you there on July 18th?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was there on July. Yep.
Let's just tell us about what happened on that date.
So on July 18th, I did an inspection, and it was determined that the waste had been removed, and the containers were secured with lids, and so therefore the notice that was sent out, the requirement in that notice was fulfilled, and that's what I found on this inspection date.
And what about another inspection date? What's the next one?
June 18, which is the next tab 6.
Just to clarify, I think you've already talked about the June 18th, but wasn't there tab 6? Is that not July 30th?
I would have, this is with regards, I was there on the same date, but this is with regards to the recreational trailer.
Okay.
fall.
Okay, so we've heard some evidence. You've been there for some waste. You've been there for a trailer. Did you? We've heard another earlier testimony today from a licensing inspector. She mentioned your name, right? Did you
Yes.
go with the business licensing inspector, and when did you go? And let's talk about that inspection.
Yes, I attended the property on August 22nd at 2:00 in the afternoon with the zoning licensing official, Julie Kelpfleisch. And the purpose for that meeting was to inspect and determine property use.
Did you make any notes on the date?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and let's go through some of your findings.
Okay. So I'll explain the timeline here of the inspection. So myself and Julie, we attended the property to determine its property use. On arrival, there was a woman who was on the porch, and then I had asked if they lived at the property, and both had replied that they did. I explained to them that we were there for the purpose of doing an inspection to determine the use of the property. At this same time, another male had walked onto the property beside myself, and I said the same thing to him and asked if he had lived there, and he said that he did. I asked, or I told him that I would like to do an inspection of the interior of the house for the same purpose and asked for his permission to enter. He said he would gladly provide me that permission. And then I asked that he provide written consent for entry, and he completed a permission form for me. This person lived in one of the rooms identified in the house as number 4. I asked how many other rooms were in the house. It was described to me there's 3 bedrooms upstairs, 3 bedrooms on the main floor, and a bedroom and a kitchen downstairs. 2 washrooms in the house also, one on the upper floor, and one in the basement. Before entering the house, I took pictures of some house rules that were posted on the front window of the house. Then both myself and Julie Coldflesh entered the house via the front door entrance, and noted the house rules post, another set of house rules posted on the main floor wall, and a fire evacuation instruction sheet. During this time, there was a female tenant who was on the floor of the porch, on the front porch. My arrival was now on her cell phone beside me, and she was on the phone with the owner. It was said to me it was Anne on the phone, and that she wanted to speak with me. I took the phone, identified myself to her, and responded asking me why I was doing an inspection. It was explained to Anne the purpose of the inspection was to determine the current use of the property as a lodging house. And I asked her how many occupants she was renting to, and she told me there were 7. I asked how many rooms she was renting to occupants, and she told me 7. I asked how many pay rent, and she told me they pay individually by cash. I told Anne there would be some follow-up hereafter. And ended the conversation with her. Julie and myself continued the inspection, checked all floors of the house. I found 7 occupant rooms. Took pictures of the exterior of each room door, ground floor room doors for upper units 4, 5, and 6, basement washroom and kitchen, basement door for unit 8, upper floor room doors for units 1, 2, and 4, an upper floor bathroom. At the time of the inspection, there were 6 occupants who came and went from the house, and all said they resided there. I asked tenants who were there at the time if they could tell me what room they live in, and many offered to tell me. Tenants in number 6, number 1, number 2, number 5, number 7 provided such information. Number 7 said he had a lease agreement for 8 months. Number 4 and number 3 had 15-day rent agreements. I also asked another person who was coming, going from room 7, and how he paid, and he paid individually. I asked him how other tenants pay, and he suggested I speak to the landlord. At this time, the person that was on the phone earlier with Anne had left her room. I asked her how she pays for rent, and she says she pays to the landlord. I asked her if the kitchen and bathrooms are shared by everyone, and she had confirmed they are shared. I asked if anyone else has access to her room, and she told me no other tenants have access to anyone else's rooms. There was some communication with another tenant thereafter. And shortly thereafter, the inspection was completed and both myself and Julie had left the property. And those were the findings.
Thank you, officer. You mentioned that you took some photos and this was provided to the committee and to the Mr. Ellis and his client. I asked that the committee administrator please put those photos up, and we'll be asking questions about what those photos show.
This picture shows a unit door with the number 3 on it. And it also shows a locking deadbolt device on the door hardware.
Okay, next, thanks.
This was a picture of the fire emergency fire information posted on the main floor upon entrance to the building, and a fire extinguisher mounted to the wall. This is a picture of the exterior window on the front at the porch, front side of the house, illustrating the house rules for 249 Duke Street East.
Can you read some of those rules if you can on the screen there?
Yes, I can. Rule number 1, if you make a mess, clean it up. Number 2, if you take it out, put it back. Number 3, if you open it, close it. Number 12, if it's not yours, ask before you use it. Number 6, if you can't fix it, call someone who can. Number 5, if you break it, fix it. Number 16, overnight guests without permission. Guests are permitted until 10 p.m. weeknights and 11 p.m. weeknights. 17, a maximum of 2 guests per tenant at any time. Responsible for your guests' actions, so choose them carefully. 18, no kitchen use after 10 p.m. weekdays and 11 p.m. weekdays. 19, you're not permitted to store anything for a non-tenant. No clothes, bikes, electronics, etc. Number 20, you're not to enter another tenant's room without their permission. Number 21, no needles in the garbage or toilets ever. Failure to abide by any of the rules will lead to the termination of your occupancy or worse. And it's signed by by Ann Tamber of Philander Property Management with the phone number.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the next photo. Can you just say what this one is? The same thing? It's just posted somewhere else?
Exactly. This is the same thing posted on the inside upon entrance to the house on the wall.
Okay. And what does this show?
And this is a closer picture of the illustration of the fire exit safety plan that is posted posted on the wall there. And then I guess we're on to the next picture. Another picture of a sign or a notice on a door indicating there will be no overnight guests until further notice. Any person violating the 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. rule will be asked to leave and served with a trespass notice that will prevent him or her from returning ever. And it's signed by Ann Tamber, again, with her phone number.
Okay. About this.
This is a picture upon entry into the house on the main floor, directly looking straight down the hallway. This is the view down To the right is a unit room, and the door that you see in the far end of the image is just a pass-through door to another area of the building. And on that door, there's some other notice that's on there, posted on there as well. To the left, which you can't really see, but it's there, is another hallway pass-through that will lead to the basement area of the house. That's that. And this is a picture of unit 5 door. On the ground floor, and a picture of unit 7 door. Again, hardware on the door, locking device. Unit 6 door, hardware locking device. This is unit 8 door. Again, hardware locking device. This is the basement washroom. Another picture of the basement washroom with the stand-up shower. So it's a 3-piece bathroom. This is a picture in the basement kitchen. A notice posted on the wall. The notice says, please clean up your dishes when you finish cooking, so that the next person that wants to cook can. Please don't leave your mess for people to clean up, or for other people to clean up. Another sign on the wall says no use after a certain time. It's at 10 p.m. I believe. This picture illustrates just the kitchen, counter, sink, what it looked like. Another picture just to the right of the sink, where there's a refrigerator and some cabinetry in the same room, the same kitchen. There's a picture of the furnace room. You see the heating system for the house there. This is a picture as you go up the stairs to the second floor. You'll see another sign posted there on the wall. I can't quite make it out. This is as you turn the corner, coming up the stairs, we see in this picture, a bathroom at the far end of the hallway, and a doorway to the right. So to the left, I believe this is a picture of unit or a door with a number 1 on it. And then another picture of us on that floor with a number 4 on it. And on that same floor, another door with a 2 on it. This is a picture of the bathroom on the upper floor. You see a sink there and a toilet and a window.
Last photo.
Okay. Thank you. You can take those photos down. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So when was the next inspection of the property?
July 18th. So if I can refer to tab 6.
You may. Just officer note that we were talking about the August 22nd, 2019 inspection. So I was just wondering if you attended next. When was the next day after August?
Okay. I do.
I think I'll refer you to
Oh,
tabs
yes, yes,
9, 10, and 11.
yes, and that's what I was going to refer to. So it will be tab 11. And November 13th, 2019. So after this date, I was there at this property to follow up with a required property standards inspection for the purpose of ensuring property standards that resulted of a lodging house licensing, a licensing of the property.
Did you note any deficiencies on that date?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Can you explain them?
So the deficiencies were, there was an exterior wood stair repair required, a stringer, landing, top newel needed to be fastened together. It had partially separated. An exterior door required some interior door trim as it was currently missing. Interior wall surfaces required repair, several patched areas needed to be finished with paint. Basement common area ceiling, basement kitchen ceiling, the entrance vestibule walls and ceiling, and the staircase to the second floor walls. Basement unit door trim repair was required as it was cracked and damaged door trim, and the wall finish needed to be replaced. A basement washroom required a door as it was currently missing. A basement unit ceiling light required a non-CFC bulb. And those were the required repairs from the inspection on that date. Would you like me to continue on with the information?
Sure. And also, how did you communicate these deficiencies to the owner?
So on November 20th, I had called Ann. I had emailed Ann a list of the deficiencies that needed to be fixed. And that was sent out on November 21st at 2:05. That email was communicated to her. And in that communication, I explained the same deficiencies as was stated. And I received a response to that email from her that same day at 3:54 p.m. Saying, with response to my requirement to have these repairs completed within a one month time reasonable. Her response to that was the interior for sure, the weather permitting and rental and license requirements of equipment for the exterior work. That may be dicey. I will do my best. And that, again, that was communicated to her on the 21st.
Did all these deficiencies, did she complete them after that deadline or within that deadline?
No, they were not.
Okay, so what happened next after that?
So, mhm. I had called and I had followed up with Anne prior to January 28th, 2020, where I had called her and asked if the repairs were completed. She had said that all was done except for the basement ceiling wall for surface finish, that it was in progress. And it was also a requirement for fire rated caulking in the ceiling. She said she was going to be visiting the property on that day and would follow up with me on the completion date so I could do my inspection. The next communication was on January 28th, 2020, where I received an email from her saying she had finished the required repairs for the fire inspection. Thereafter would be ready for my inspection. And there's a communication of that saying the same. So sorry if I can backtrack a bit. There's a timeline here. On January 16th, I had inquired and she had responded. She was in Toronto for a few days. She would be back next week. On February 24th, I asked if fire had done their inspection. I asked Anne if fire had done their inspection. She had responded that they were done, and I arranged for my repair inspection on Friday, February 28th at 1 p.m. On Friday, February 28th, I had called Anne had called me and canceled the inspection. I said that I can come by Monday, March 2nd in the afternoon to do a repair inspection. On March 9th, I asked if I could inspect on that day. She said that she lost her cat. I wouldn't be able to do the inspection at the time. I had mentioned that all the repairs in the common. I mentioned that all the repairs are in the common areas and I can inspect without her permission.
You mean without her presence or without her permission?
Without her presence.
But you mean with her permission?
For common areas of a dwelling unit, permission would be required by the occupant. So I would get occupant permission, not the owner.
Okay, thank you.
Which is what I explained to her. Should someone at the property allow me entry? And she agreed, however, said I could just go into the house and inspect, but I preferred that we would arrange something. So I suggested I follow up again. And then on March 16th, delayed the interior inspection due to COVID-19. I texted Anne asking her if she could forward me pictures of the completed work. And she had called me back and said that she wasn't able to do so. And then I delayed any follow-up until after May 4th, as was explained to her. On May 20th, an inspection was done and repairs were confirmed to be completed.
Does that complete what you want to say about the everything stemming from November 13th, 2019, your inspection about those deficiencies.
That's correct, yes.
So everything was into compliance as later on into the next year. Is that correct?
Yes.
And perhaps we'll move on then to tab number 12. There is an order that you issued. Can you just explain why there's an order there and what is an order and when would you do one? Those sort of types of things.
That's right. So an order is written when either in some situations when there's been a work through in a timeline and that timeline has lapsed. And in this process with this particular bylaw, the follow-up to that in a legislative way is an order to affect the repairs to be performed and completed within a certain timeline. So the initial process to this started off verbally, and I worked through to a point where in this case, a fence wasn't repaired by a timeline, and therefore the follow-up to that was an order written requiring the owner make the repairs required within a timeline. And so that's what this tab 12 is with regards to, is fence repairs that were required in the rear yard at this property. This was identified from the initial inspection I had there on June 6th, 2019, and the follow-up to that, as I identified certain issues or bylaw violations from that inspection, and this was one of them. So this was the fence that needed repair in the rear yard. There were a few sections of fence that needed to be repaired. And the timeline for that to look and to have this fence repaired. So on October 18th, on that day, I met with Anne to look over two sections of the fencing in the rear yard that were badly leaning and are broken and need of repair, as well as to establish the ownership of the fence or fence sections. There was some contention as to the ownership of it, as to who owned it. So that's what I was there to kind of meet with Anne to look at and discern and follow up with. So there was a section along the right side of the rear yard that was determined to be Anne's fence, and a section along the left rear yard was determined to be the side neighbor's fence that was in disrepair. And this was all done according to measurements on a property survey that was used to determine property boundary lines, and therefore a fence in relation to the line. At that time, it was discussed repair or removal options with Anne, and she said she would remove the rear right yard side fencing rather than repair it. I had asked if this could be done before the winter months would begin, and it was said that she would be able to do so. At that same time, I had handed a licensing notice to Anne from our licensing department staff, Julie Coltflesh. At that time, Anne had accepted the notice and asked me what it was for. I replied to her that the notice should have some explanation to it. I wasn't reading the notice. At the time, she read it over and had asked me what she should do with the notice. And I explained to her she should follow up with the licensing department. as it's a licensing matter. And I think there was some explanation for some penalty if it wasn't followed up on. And I suggested she contact Julie for follow-up. She said she would, in order to firm up the licensing application. On October 24th, the follow-up to this was that there was what's known as a notice, just a written notice, requiring the fence to be repaired by December 2nd, 2019. And that notice is attached at the end of the tab, near the end of the tab. And again, oh, is there someone there?
No, continue.
Oh, okay, sorry. I didn't see anybody. And so the notice was sent out on October 24th to Ann Hamilton. Not at the 249 Duke Street address, at a different address that we have on record for Ann Hamilton. That requirement in the notice said that there was a violation of the property standards bylaw, requiring that the broken wooden fence post in the backyard right side fence and fencing, which is no longer reasonably plumb, needed to be repaired and set in a reasonably plumb condition, or the fencing could be removed altogether. Failure to comply, there was a deadline for December 2nd. And failure to comply with that by that deadline would result in the issuance of an order to comply served on the owner of the property. And so that was sent out October 24th. On October 25th, I had called Ann and informed her the fence notice, repair notice was forthcoming. She acknowledged that she would need to assess every tenant's room before I do a property standards inspection. She was referring to an inspection follow-up for the licensing inspection that I had done. She said she would do this as soon as possible and thereafter get back in touch with me when she's ready for the inspection. November 29th, I did another inspection, just a pre-inspection. There had been no change. On January 15th, 2020, I did another inspection and there had been no change. On that same day, I called Ann. I left a voicemail message asking for a call back. If I didn't receive a call back from her, I could proceed with an order. The deadline would be similar to some neighboring properties where fence repairs were required on those properties at a similar time and deadline. On the 21st of January 2020, I called Ann, discussed the incomplete repair removal of the fence. She acknowledged it hadn't been removed yet. She said that weather did not cooperate. I told her that I would now be moving forward with an order on the repair of the removal of the fence and the disrepair. The deadline for that would be June 1st, 2020. Title search was done on January 21st, 2020 to determine legal ownership of the property. That title search came back, and the information on that was then put into an order requiring the fence to be repaired.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about this fence, and I think that I thank you for being very thorough. I think the committee probably understands that there's a lot of back and forth communication between you and Anne, so that's probably met that point. Let's maybe discuss some of the other tabs just quickly. You've had tab 15, 16. Just maybe describe what they are. And,
Okay. So tab 15 is information that was inputted into our Amanda information reporting system. And so tab 15 is with regards to a complaint our office received with regards to long grass and weeds at the property. We have a bylaw with regards to grass and weed maintenance on property. An investigation was done on that day on June 11th, 2020. It was found that the property was in compliance and no action taken. That is tab 15. Tab 16 refers to a complaint of lack of heat at the in the dwelling units. An investigation 18th, where I communicated with the owner, Anne, informed her of my inspection findings and needed to know if the heating system was working or not. The follow-up to that on that same day was she provided information that one of the thermostats in one of the rooms had been turned off and had been access had been gained by that gained to the room to reactivate the thermostat, turn the heating system on. It was confirmed by the end of the day on November 19th.
okay, and what about tabs 1, 2, 3, and 17? Or what are those? Just quickly.
Tab 1 and 2 pertain to complaints of noise at the property. Tab 1 is a noise complaint that was received on January 23rd, 2016. Tab 2 was a noise complaint received September 22nd, 2017. In the first tab, the report was that the findings were that the officer had no noise heard from the outside of the lodging house, and he was not able to gain access to the building. And on the September 22nd, 2017 report, the officer reported a small portable radio on the front porch, 2 males sitting around it, and that the music was turned down on request. Tab 3 refers to a complaint our office received with regards to a fire pit in the backyard. The officer had attended all doors to the house and reports that all doors to the house open. Nobody was seen outside. The officer called out bylaw, need to speak with anyone. The officer spoke to an occupant who had just moved in. The officer advised of the complaint regarding the fire pit. The fire pit did not have proper barrier. It was too close to the fence with property at 245 Duke Street East. Requirement of a setback of 3.6 meters. The reports that the fire pit cannot be relocated. There's not enough setback on the property. Therefore, no fire is permitted at this location, as the fire pit would need to be removed. And that was June 5th, 2019.
Okay, so does that complete all your evidence, officer? That completes all the bylaw evidence before the committee that was filed? Is there anything else you'd like to say just quickly?
No. No.
Okay, so that completes this witness, subject to Mr. Ellis's cross-examination.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Potvin.
Good afternoon.
Have you, in your experience dealing with Ann Tamber, have you ever had to charge Ann for not complying with an order?
With regards to a property standards order, no.
Okay. Have you ever had to charge her in regards to anything else?
No.
Okay. So you stated that your first inspection of 249 Duke Street East was June 6, 2019?
Yes.
Had you ever had to inspect that property before 2015?
No.
So when you attended and the trailer in the backyard, was that Ann Tamber's trailer?
It was told to me by the occupant it belonged to the occupant.
Okay. And was that trailer removed after you requested it to be removed?
Yes, there was notice follow-up with regards to that, and yes, it did get removed.
So then we go to the waste that you were discussing. What kind of waste was that?
So-
On June
so
18th, I think it was.
Yes, so the waste was identified in the notice, and it was described as wood furniture on the porch and at the side of the house, a wooden chair, exterior building doors, tree cuttings, and any other waste debris.
And after you informed Ann, did she make sure that everything was removed?
Yes. There are timelines, if I can just explain, there are timelines. So although the matters would be, resolved, that there's no longer, a violation or confirmation that the stuff's still there. July 2nd had lapsed. It wasn't until July 18 that it was confirmed that the waste had been removed.
Okay.
Okay.
So July 2nd was when she was supposed to have it removed, but she didn't have it removed by then?
It was my confirmation on July 18th that the property was in compliance at that time. So I can't confirm if it was done.
Okay. Okay. So then you stated that you came back in August to do a lodging license inspection?
Yes.
So you weren't aware whether this was a lodging house or not when you came in June?
I wasn't aware whether it was or it wasn't. That was the purpose of the inspection.
Okay. And during the inspection that you did in August 16, 2019, did you find a lot of property standard infractions?
So on August 22nd, 2019, the day that I did the inspection, I can't comment on the conditions at the time, as I wasn't keen on obvious, maybe some repair standards at the time, as I was really focused on the point of occupancy, determining occupancy. I believe there were some pictures, but I'd have to reflect on those to see if there was any evidence of any repairs.
Okay. You discussed the fence, the order that you had to give for the fence, that you attended the property in order to determine the ownership of the fence.
Yes, there were So there were two sections of fence that were in disrepair. One section of the left side rear was the section of fence that had to be investigated a little closer to determine where it was in relationship to the property.
Okay.
And so that was determined at the time, with on the inspection date with Ann present there, and we looked at that together. And so that section of the fence was ruled out as being part of the ownership. But the other section of fence that was on the right side rear that was in disrepair was deemed to be within the boundaries of this property and therefore owned by 249.
Okay. The other section that you found to be in disrepair that wasn't part of Ann Tamber's property, was there an order to that property owner to have that fence removed?
I don't know. I know there was follow-up and that the fence was repaired. I don't know.
Okay. You stated that you gave Ann a document from licensing regarding the lodging license requirement?
Yeah, I guess that was on that same day. It was a notice that came from the licensing department.
Do you remember what that date was? Was that October 24th, 2019?
I'd have to look. I think that was the same day. That was the fence. October 18, 2019.
Okay. And you weren't aware of when Ann applied for the lodging license after you gave her that notice, are you?
No.
Okay. And you discuss your last evidence that you were dealing with was noise complaints regarding tenants and a fire pit?
That's right. Yes.
Were all of those resolved fairly quickly, or were they an issue?
So the first two noise complaints were the first was not, there were no findings, and the second, or there was no noise heard, so that was resolved on the officer's arrival. The second was resolved on the officer's arrival after speaking with someone, and the third required some follow-up and information that fire couldn't be done, and so it was resolved in the sense that no fire could be burned. On that resolve at the end of that officer's inspection.
Do you have anything that shows that there was ever an issue with a fire pit there again after that inspection?
There was a requirement, I believe, and I may have informed the occupant the day I did my inspection the following day on June 6th. And then the requirement to remove the fire pit, and that was worked through and removed thereafter. So there was a timeline there, and I'd have to reflect, but I think it was resolved rather within a reasonable timeline.
Okay. So just to sum up, you don't know of any other issues that you've had to enforce anything at 249 Duke Street East?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Those would be all my questions for you then. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Potvin.
Yes.
Aaron, you'll carry on?
Just a quick question, like a redirect quickly, because Mr. Ellis was asking the officer about who, sort of about like who's responsible for what. He's asking a little bit in his cross-examination about, well, that motor trailer belonged to the occupant, but under the zoning bylaw, Rick Potvin, Officer Potvin, who's responsible for it? Is it the owner of the property? Is it the occupant?
Under the zoning bylaw, it's the owner. The owner's
Thank you.
required to.
Thank you. And what about lot maintenance? Lot maintenance bylaw. Tell us who's responsible for the waste.
Under the definition in that bylaw, both owner and occupant are defined as being responsible to maintain property maintenance. So to make sure it's clear of waste, and to make sure if you're, in this case, storing waste outdoors, stored appropriately.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your testimony. The next city witness, and I'm a little concerned about the time, but the next witness I would like to call is Helen Falaktu. However, I do note that I also have some civilian witnesses, and through the chair, you mentioned that we'd be ending around 4, although I think that in our calendars it was until 4:30. So I just want to clarify how long we're actually going first.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't aware it was 4:30. That's my fault. Mr. Ellis, you had mentioned you have a 5 o'clock. Can you go till 4:30?
I have to go home, get my car changed, and be in the far side of Waterloo for 5 o'clock. I wasn't aware that we were going till 4:30. I thought it was only 4 o'clock as well, but it's your court.
Well, I think we should just hold at 4 o'clock then. We're resuming again on Thursday. Do you want to
Yes,
take a quick
just
10-minute break and then get back at it?
we could then. I might have to call some civilian witnesses because they've taken time off work on June 21st and they've taken time off work today. And these specific witnesses will probably need to go today. So
that's fine with me.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So we will be back here. It is 2:40. Let's just take a 5. We'll go back here at 5 to 3. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello?
We ready to go?
Through your chair, if you are ready. I didn't stop the live stream. I just used a quick break schedule, so you're free to start whenever you wish.
Oh, good. Okay, yes, I think, is Erin ready to go? She's not here yet, maybe. Hi, Erin.
Hi.
You want to call other witnesses then, other than city witnesses now, or?
Yes, I would like to call, there is, how do I say this? There is someone who lives in the neighborhood who would like to testify, and because they have not consented to their personal information being disclosed in the open session, I ask that it now that we be taken into closed session so I can call this witness. And again, they have intimate knowledge of the tenants who live there at 249 Duke Street East. And that's another reason why I asked we go into closed session.
Okay.
And actually there are two witnesses in this sense, so they'll both need to be in closed session, but I suppose one at a time then, or I can discuss further in closed session about the arrangement.
Okay. Sanders, do you want to take us into closed section then?
I just need
Next appointment. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Erin, you can call your next witness.
Thank you. I don't see my next witness. He would like to just be referred to as Mark. Are you there, Mark? I don't see you listed in the participant list.
I don't believe I have a Mark in the participant list.
Okay. It's quite possible that he's no longer available. In which case, I could either call Helen Falaktu, who's the manager of licensing, or we could take that break that Mr. Ellis wants.
Well, then maybe we'll just take that break for Mr. Ellis to get to his appointment on time and start fresh on Thursday.
Thank you.
But just 1 second, the hand up of the manager.
Sorry, I can see Mark in the attendee list, Diana. I think he just needs to be renamed and move over.
That's Marcus in the attendance list. Is there two Marcuses or one? Oh, there he is. Sorry.
Yeah, Erin, are you able to confirm? Are there two individuals with a similar name?
I'm not. They have a similar name, but I'm not able to
Mark now. I don't know.
confirm it. Is it Mark now?
It says Mark now. It said Marcus a second ago, so I don't know.
I apologize. We just did a closed session person with a similar name, so I just need to confirm. Is it the same individual?
Well, let's ask. I don't know if I can't ask him the question. I'd like to know, Mark, are you a different person who has not provided testimony yet?
I don't believe so. You have two people on the list, and I believe that gentleman we just addressed.
You believe that Mark is the person that we just addressed?
So my name is Marcus Dorman, and we
Just 1 second.
spoke. There is another attendee named Mark in the meeting, I believe.
No,
There isn't.
no.
Okay. Then let's take that break. Thanks.
Okay. So we are back here on Thursday.
Through the chair, you will need to confirm your preferred start time. Currently, I did set out the information for 10 a.m., but I did confirm with the witnesses that I would be following up once the tribunal determined what time you were hoping to begin.
Okay, I'm good for 10. Erin, Ms. Mevitt?
Yes, 10 a.m. is fine.
10 a.m. is good with me.
Okay, and Councilor Gazzola?
Yeah, can anyone tell if we will have enough time to hear everyone else that needs to be heard? Or should we start a little earlier, or is there any?
I think, if I may, this is Jennifer Tromblin-Jones. If Mr. Ellis could perhaps, if he has an indication of how long his witnesses might be, I think we just have Helen Fulak-Tu left.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay, so we have a number of witnesses. Perhaps we can get an estimate from the solicitors as to how much time we may estimate for each of their submissions.
As was mentioned previously, but all witnesses could not attend both dates. So there are 2 other civilian witnesses to appear on July 15th. There is also Helen Fulak-Tu, the manager of licensing. And once Mr. Ellis does provide his witness statements, there will be rebuttal evidence coming from Steve Renzos and Tom Rubble. One is the manager of bylaw and another one is the chief fire prevention officer.
I've produced all my witness statements and you've produced your rebuttal, I was to the understanding.
Yes, exactly. But I think that the lawyer, Jennifer Tromblin-Jones, is asking, how long do we think this will take? And I'm saying that we're probably not even going to finish on the Thursday because you provided a witness list of over 22 people. And I think you've provided maybe 10 actual witnesses to appear on Thursday. And I was expecting today actually to go till 5, but now we're ending at 4. So I can't say how long this will take because, as you can see, it does take time to have an examination and a cross-examination of each witness.
I don't believe that you'll get done your witnesses on Thursday with my cross-examinations.
So
I have
then,
over 60 questions for Helen.
so if we've lost an hour, as clearly we have, if we were going till 5, could we start at 9? And it would be a 9 to 5 day with 2 15-minute breaks and an hour for lunch, or 45 minutes for lunch. Does that make a difference for anyone? Or do you think this is going to go to day 3?
I think this is going to go to day 3.
Yeah, it's definitely going to go to day 3.
Okay, well then.
We can start earlier though on Thursday if the committee administrator thinks that we can. I don't know because we have, I mean, Helen is available earlier, I think, because she's up, but the witnesses, the civilian witnesses, I mean, I haven't confirmed if they could start earlier than 10 o'clock.
Well, then I'm not sure what to do here. Should we just go at 10 as we decided and just carry through?
That's what I think we should do.
I asked the question in the hopes that we might get through it in 2 days. But if we're saying now it's a 3-day deal, we might as well leave it at the times that you had earlier set up.
I would agree.
And then we decide on the next date at the on Thursday. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good for everyone?
Good with me.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I agree. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then we are finished here now until Thursday at 10 a.m.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.